I am so excited. I haven't spoken about the middle in 12 years, at least on YouTube. And I was obsessed with this show back in the day, as it were. And I realised I wanted to watch it again. I love Patricia Heaton and I was kind of desperate to see it again. It's been a long time. And initially, I was going to stream it. I had assumed it would still be on whatever streaming service. It's actually very difficult to find in the UK. You can pay to stream some of the seasons on Prime, not all of them. So I decided to buy the first season on DVD. And if by the end of the first season I was still in the mood to watch the entire thing, I will buy the complete box set in due course. And having just rewatched the pilot episode, which is called Pilot, I feel like that's probably very likely. And a lot of this episode came flooding back to me. I remember this one very well, but I feel like I've probably seen it more than most episodes because I did watch this show a lot. And usually when I went back to it, I'd start with the pilot and then I'd jump around to episodes that I remember liking. But now I'm going to watch everything in sequence for the first time in probably more than a decade, and I'm very excited. This first episode was directed by Julianne Robinson, and it aired in 2009. And there will be spoilers as I discuss what happens in this. This is very much an introduction episode, and I think it is fantastic. If you've never seen the show before, this basically explains everything you need to know about who the Heck family is, and where they live, what their life is like, and really helps to set us up for future episodes. It actually starts off pretty powerfully with Frankie, played by Patricia Heaton, in a superhero costume in the middle of nowhere, trying to get cell phone reception. We don't know why. We don't find out until quite a bit later, and I will mention what happens when we get there. And we learn that they live in Orson, Indiana, and Frankie is married with 3 children. And part of it is narrated. She narrates part of it, but we also have things unfolding in real time, as it were. And we get a really great introduction to her family. We, of course, have Mike, the husband, who is played by Neil Flynn. We also have Axel, Sue, and Brick, played by Charlie McDermott, Eden Sher, and Atticus Shaffer. And it is so easy to get a really quick overview of what the children are like. Frankie and Mike actually have to go to Brick's teacher in this episode. We learn that Brick is a bit of an outcast. He has some unusual tendencies. For example, he whispers to himself. Sue, we learn, has tried out for many, many things and hasn't succeeded in any of them. Axel is a bit of a typical 15-year-old teenage boy, and obviously, as the season goes on, I won't say too much about that here, but we do obviously learn more about the characters and more about the personalities. But even just in this first episode, we get such a strong indication of their personalities. We also learn that Frankie works at Ehlert Motors, Mike works at the quarry, and we spend a lot of time in different locations, and that's so unusual for a pilot episode of a TV show. I don't know what the budget was behind this, but it is really unusual. We're obviously at the Heck's house, we're at Brick's school, we're at the quarry, well, we're in Mike's office, and down at Ehlert Motors, we are also in the middle of nowhere, as I mentioned, and we also go to a performance as well, which I'll talk about in a second. So there's a lot going on for a pilot episode, and it's really well done. We also kind of realise that the middle refers to the fact that they are the average family. They are the average family size. They're not completely on the poverty line, but they're not rolling it in either. And they also have a very kind of, what I think is a very traditional family dynamic. For example, Frankie calls the kids down because she's made dinner and then presents them with fast food. And then they have to have a family dinner. They have to sit together, but they're actually sitting in front of the television. And I just think that this is such a typical representation of the average family dynamic. And it's so realistic. And I think for most viewers, also very relatable. And I feel like most people watching this will relate to one of the characters in one way or another. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's not just an introduction to the characters, of course. We have little pockets of narratives. For example, Sue tried out for show choir, and she made it, And everybody is very surprised by that. And then they go and see the show. The passage of time in this is very, very quick, of course. They go and see the show, and it turns out that actually she's just on the crew. But she's really pleased about it. She looks really happy. And then something happens, and basically catastrophe unfolds. It's beautifully choreographed. I don't know if I've ever paid that much attention to watching the execution of the downfall of the show, but it is just gorgeous to watch. It's chaotic and fabulous, and I love it. And then Frankie is also trying to sell a car, and she meets this fellow mother who seems to really get her. And they decide that they're going to go and drive and drive and drive. They're obviously taking the car for a test drive. It's this beautiful car. And it's a time for them to just bond and be free. And for Frankie to, I don't want to say let her hair down. That's maybe a bit too casual. But actually, quite frankly, that is what's going on here. There's been so much tension building up inside of her. She's found somebody who understands her. Let's take the car for a test ride. Hopefully she'll buy it at the end of it. That's not what happens. And here we circle back to the beginning, because the car hits something, in theory. Frankie gets out to have a look to make sure there's no damage to the car, and the woman drives off. The woman who was test driving the car speeds off, leaving Frankie, of course, in her superhero outfit, because she'd just been to brick school before work, and with only her cell phone and no cell phone reception. And actually the ending is really emotional. It's so beautiful. And I don't know if I found it more emotional because I know what happens over the coming seasons and I've already got this emotional connection to the characters. But it's really beautiful because at the end, she's obviously managed to phone somebody and her family come and collect her in the car. And they toy with her a bit. Mike drives the car, then stops it, then drives it forward and stops it. And he's having a bit of fun with her. And she gets in the car. They've made dinner for her, presenting her with fast food. And she says she loves the kids and it's really sweet. And Mike kind of got me a little bit because he said... I didn't write it down, so I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, I said I loved you the day I married you. If anything changes, I'll let you know. And here we establish that Mike may not be as open about his emotions as other members of the family, but those simple words just say, if I'm not saying anything, nothing's changed. I still love you as much as I did then. And I think that that's something a lot of people can relate to as well, because there are usually two kinds of people, those who are very quick to express their feelings and those who never express their feelings. And Mike falls into the latter category, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that. And I just thought it was beautiful, a really lovely way to end this episode, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to watch the next episode. I think I remember a lot, well, a reasonable amount, but it has been probably over a decade since I sat down to watch it properly. I have seen clips and things over the years, and I think I did watch the last season when it aired. I think I watched the last few seasons as they came out, but I haven't watched the earlier seasons in a very long time, if that makes sense. I haven't watched the ones that aired forever ago since forever, so I'm looking forward to rewatching those. The more recent episodes are probably going to be a little bit more fresh in my memory, but I haven't sat down to properly binge watch it season after season after season in a very long time. Really looking forward to it, and the first episode, pilot, is absolutely fantastic.